Welcome to the Insight NBA show. This is the Brooklyn Nets season preview. How are you, Skiddy?
Very good, Jay. Always good to be talking some NBA hoops with you. Unfortunately, tonight is Brooklyn, but that's all right. We're still going to make the best of it and see what we can figure out for what that starting lineup is going to entail and all the little bits and pieces where that's going to fall into place for the Brooklyn Nets this year.
We do have some value to glean from this one, so let's not mess around anymore and let's get to Brooklyn and show you where you're really at.
They're playing basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skiddy, and Mally for the Insight NBA show.
Whose team is it, Skiddy?
Brooklyn, I believe it is, Jay Weasel, today, which is always fun.
But whose team is it? Because it's nice to see Ben Simmons feeling realized that he doesn't need that shooting sleeve in Brooklyn. It's just a shame that he doesn't realize he needs to play games of basketball.
Yeah, I've got absolutely no idea whose team it is in Brooklyn. I don't think Brooklyn knows whose team it is in Brooklyn. And it's always nice to see them, helping out their crosstown rivals in the Knicks and just giving them their best player. So it's always fun. But, that's just what Brooklyn do, apparently.
It's how you show love in the city of the Big Apple. Mikal Bridges, as you just said, mate, is out. Keita Bates-Diop in the trade as well. Coming in, Bojan Bogdanovic, Shake Milton, Zaire Williams, and Killian Hayes. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for you by way of ads immediately when you see those names?
The only one that really jumps out of the page for me is Zaire Williams. I like what he's able to do, but I just don't think he's going to be able to have enough of the ball in hand as of yet. The minutes to be able to be played with Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith still there. I think he profiles okay, but not anything spectacular. But it'd be definitely something I'd be interested in if I knew that he was getting started small forward positioning there, but I just don't think it's going to be at this point. Do you see anything that gets you excited?
Yeah, I get a couple of excites, but nothing really jumps off the page for me. I think there's really only one player that I love, and there's a couple of players with upside, and there's a bit of a flirty, frisky, risky guy that we're going to do in an ADP battle because you picked a great one for the Brooklyn Nets ADP battle. You did hit the nail on the head. The starting five for this lineup is interesting. This is who you think is the potential starting five. The point guard, Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas as the shooting guard, Cam Johnson as small forward, DFS Dorian Finney-Smith, and Clacko, my lad, Nick Claxton at the center spot, mate.
Yeah, I've got no idea, in all honesty, when it comes to the Nets. I think everyone's kind of in the same aspect where they go, okay, we assume that Ben Simmons is going to be healthy, so he'll start. But Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton are the only two that I feel concrete in of starting, and probably Cam Johnson. But you could throw, Dennis Schroeder in here. Yep. You could probably maybe Clowney, maybe he's ready to go. Zaire Williams, maybe. Oh yeah, Bogdanovic also could as well theoretically.
It doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make you feel fantasy.
None of them make you feel good. I don't know. Like this is just like an air. They're an air team that I think is going to get absolutely belted game in, game out, and I think that's just how it's going to be for the Nets this next season. And that's what we're going to expect. But Cam Thomas is going to take an absolute shit ton of shots, is what I'm expecting. And
he's going to take. He's never met a shot that he doesn't like for a start. The one guy that I want to put on there, we do a segment later on in the show. It's called Our Guy Who Is Ready to Rise. Mm-hmm. Anyone could be better on the Nets. It's not really a typical Skiddy. The other guy who I will mention just here is Cam Johnson. His Phoenix partner in crime, Mikal Bridges, is playing for the Knicks now. This guy only played 58 games last year, 27.6 minutes a night. He had minutes reduced when coming back from injury. His field goal percentage was down. He doesn't do anything to an elite level. his free throw percentage was a bit down. It was 787 from last year.
Yeah.
But the 13.5 points, the 2.5 threes, he finished it as the 142nd player. That's worth a roster spot. If he plays more than 58 games, if he's up around 70, 72, 75, it's intriguing. And it's a guy who could crack top 120 and who's just fallen off radars a little bit because of being a bit bitten last year.
Yeah. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, but are we so sure that he's going to be that good here in Brooklyn? I mean, if he went to another team, which I could still see happening, I would be a bit more interested in Cam Johnson. We know that he was very, very good during that run in Phoenix when he had Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton to be able to play off of. And then last year, riddled with a bit of injury with only the 58 games, but everything was down. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to see the max of Cam Johnson, but yeah, I think, we can still have a crack on him around the 100 and 110 marks. I know a lot of people have him a lot lower than that as well.
Exactly. So there's some punters just have him way down, 120, 130, 140. One have him bouncing back into the 90s. I know I just did an analyst mock draft that you and I are going over tomorrow morning on a show. He went in the 9th round as the 8th pick. So that's just outside top 100. So there's a little bit of upside to flirt with, but not a lot there.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you there, mate. It's like the same as who's going to be the other starter. Is it Dorian Finney-Smith for defense? Is it Noah Clowney? But I just don't think that you can play Clowney, Simmons, and Claxton all in the same starting lineup. I think that's just going to be way too detrimental. I can see where the arguments for Bojan Bogdanovic comes in, though. So obviously he was at Detroit last year, and he was definitely an ad. Definitely an ad when he was at Detroit last year. He was putting up 20 points per game. So I just think that they're going to go with Dorian Finney-Smith to start off with for defensive purposes. But also too, I can see the arguments for Bojan. So I think either way, Finney-Smith is not the pickup. It just depends. If Bojan starts, then I will be a bit more interested in Bojan with a later round style pick. Would you be in agreement with that?
100%. 100%. If I know he's going to get minutes and be a trade bait and he's going to go out there and it's a return to Brooklyn for Bojan.
Yes.
And Mr. Bojangles is decent. He put up great numbers in there. He can help you win a fantasy season by just being the most underwhelmingly guy on your roster. Like, you have Bojan? But then you look at his profile, you're like, geez, he's bloody all right. And the thing is, like you said, with the starting five, there is so much lack of faith in Ben Simmons. In this industry draft we were talking about, he went in the 13th round as the last pick. There was 14 rounds. So that just shows you in a usually 9-cat, 12-team, 12-player team, he wouldn't have been drafted by these analysts yesterday. So that just shows you that there is an upside for Ben Simmons if he plays. But if he plays, and how many games does he play? But they do have a team Top Gun that we love.
Absolutely, Jay. I mean, look, quickly though on Ben Simmons, if he does play, we have seen this guy be almost first round return. So that's why everyone does say, hey, let's have a crack on him in the last round of the drafts, because you do get rebounds, assists, and steals and some blocks, high field goal percentage. So, but our team Top Gun, Nick Claxton is who we're eyeing ourselves in on, and he doesn't have the upside as a lot of the other centers, but the good thing about Claxton is that he does get very, very good rebound numbers. 9.9 rebounds per game last season. 2.1 blocks was the big one there that we zoned in on. So very, very good blocks there. But again, like these other big rebound block number kind of guys, like when we look at Rudy Gobert, Clint Capella kind of spec, the free throw numbers really needs to come up, and he's really bad at 5.5. So 55.1, absolutely horrible.
I lost a week on him last year. I was up in free throw. Yeah, I was And it was a game where he was shooting well for the first half of it. I can't remember who it was against. I was like, I'm going to pull this up. It was a massive comeback.
Where he was shooting, I think he went 3 of 3 from the free throw line, and then he ended up like 3 of 12 or 3 of 11 or something like that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That was hell.
Even you saying that, I've literally got goosebumps from reliving that because I had just climbed my way back into this 9-cat, 4-4 most of the week. Back and forward. There was always something. There was like 2 or 3 nights overnight that were tied. And I'm like, this is stupid. And then I lost it on Clacko. My guy.
You bastard.
So like, do you see him next 9?
Do you see him returning the same value as last season? Or do you see him up? Do you see him down? Because obviously he can't generate his own shot. We know that he doesn't shoot threes. He can be a nice little assist hub from time to time. But he's going to rely heavily on a lot of pick and roll lob dunks. So where do you see, like, if it's Simmons or Schroeder?
Well, it would be really good if, like, Cam Thomas passed the basketball and would actually work a pick and roll game.
In Cam Thomas's defense, his assist went from like 1 point something to like 3.8 in the second half of the season. So he actually got a lot better at assists later on in the season.
I won't deny that, but this is now
still not great.
His team. And his, as you said, it's not great. But then again, when you've got Ben Simmons, he is the distributor. So someone needs to score because it's not going to be Ben. It's not going to be Simo.
That's true.
It's going to be the guy shooting in the corner, and it needs to be someone in the pick and roll game because you can't exactly stack the basket with Simmons and Claxton.
Yeah.
So that's just too much of a logjam down there. The penetration is a drop off because you know that Ben's not going to get into a mid range and pull up.
Correct.
So he has to get close to the back end and do it. The only person who can free or really unlock Clacko in that really is Cam Thomas. And if they can get a pick and roll going, he goes up. The great thing is Cam Thomas loves to take a lot of shots. There's not a lot of guys who are shooting or good at it. I think the rebound numbers could go up. I think if his free throw percentage goes up some, if he gets to 620, 630, 640, if he can make some improvements there, this is a guy who finished as the 73rd ranked player last year.
Yep.
I see him in the 60s solidly. Could he be top 50? It's look a high chance. But as you said, those dings, especially on free throw percentage, are massive, mate.
Yeah, I agree. And I 100% am on board with you with Simmons and him in the pick and roll where there's no 3-point mid-range kind of shot or threat where teams will just be able to nullify them like that. I think that Claxton's going to work a lot better when he's being paired with Dennis Schroeder. I think he will be the guy that will unlock Claxton to his full potential. Unless Claxton's got a nice little floater that goes with his game. He's got a nice little baby hook. But again, he's not hitting down like, these pick and fade jumpers that kind of are needed when you're playing with Ben Simmons.
Where would you think is a safe space to say Clacko being the team stock gun?
See, I know I would have him personally probably around that, 60 to 70 type mark, but the blocks are good. But also too, what we've been starting to notice now, G, with a couple of mock drafts that we've been doing is a shitload of centers come off around the mid 40 area, where you're losing like Jared Allen, Rudy Gobert, guys. Bam goes a little bit earlier with Evan Mobley, but Miles Turner, these kind of big DeAndre Ayton, these kind of big center options with rebound. And you kind of need a reach for Claxton because after Claxton, you don't really have that guy except for maybe Jalen Duren. They're probably the next two that you kind of go for. And after that...
And they're very similar with that whole punting your free throw percent. Actually, Duren's a better free throw.
Duren's not that bad. It's then after that when you kind of got to go, okay, am I going to have faith in a 36-year-old Brook Lopez? Am I going to trust what's going to go along with Clint Capella and... Onyeka Okongwu? I don't know where I'm going to be able to sit with those guys. So that's where they come down a little bit later. And there's the gap that kind of bridges. So that's why a lot of people are reaching for Jared Allen and Nick Claxton kind of areas to be able to bump them up a bit higher to be able to.
And this is where, for me, this is where you just hit it. Jared Allen. In that mock draft, I'll show it tomorrow. I took Jared Allen in the 40s. I think it's safe around there. But
that's where a lot of them went as well, didn't they?
There was a bit of they flew off. And I kind of started that like, hey guys, you should start thinking about a really good center. And that was me. And I started that domino. And then you started to see them go off the board. But Clacko didn't initially. Shout out to Karan Trawler from FBI Basketball. He actually took him at round 6, pick 1. So that's in the 70s. So that's about on value where he was last year. So it's steady. If you're punting a free throw percentage, and by the way, you're taking if you're taking that ball, you are literally kicking it out of the stadium if you're punting free throw percentage with these. You never expect to win it. Like this is a guy who is going to tank it even when you're trying to be solid at.
100%, mate. Yep, could not agree with you there more, G Wizzle. But we've got one more guy in the starting lineup that we just got to talk about before we get onto our ready to rise guy, and that is Cam Thomas. And as we said, G, we fully expect this to be Cam Johnson's team, in quotation marks, to say that he is now the guy. The man from Japan, he was 130th, 129, 120. Did you know that Cam Thomas was born in Japan?
I did.
Yeah, fantastic. That's always my bit of trivia that I love to throw out to everyone, that the best Japanese player of all time is Cam Thomas. He had 66 games last year, 31.4 minutes a night, G. And we know that there was a lot of injuries to the Brooklyn Nets late last year, but he still averaged 22.5 points. I know that the injuries would have, accounted for a bit of his, points and usage to be able to go up a bit, right? But who the hell is going to be the usage guy on this team if it's not Cam Thomas this year?
No, it's 100% Cam Thomas. And that's exactly why we're going to talk about for our ADP battle for the Brooklyn Nets, your carbon copy guys. It is Cam Thomas versus Jordan. I've also never met a shot that I don't love to take, Paul.
Yep, that's very true. So we got the Japanese phenomenon versus the homeless superstar. So I like that. That's a good matchup there, G Wizzle.
Thank you.
So Cam Thomas, I've got him around the 90s mark, G Wiz. I think that's a good spot to have Cam Thomas. Jordan Poole, I also have around the 90s mark. Now, the thing is with it, we know that Tyus Jones has now gone from the Wizards to Phoenix. So I have said this numerous times, and I know I'll cut a lot of backlash for it. I think Jordan Poole is the starting point guard in Washington. I think that is 100% the thing, and that's the way that they envision Poole, and that's the way that they're going to go with it. And then they're going to go defense surrounding him and Kuzma. So when I'm sitting there and I go, okay, I have two teams that I believe are both going to be quite poor in the overall standings, and that normally leads to worse fantasy numbers.
That's fair.
Overall, yep. Well, when you look at the Celtics team versus, the Wizards team, the Celtics had a better, they had less turnovers, they had a higher field goal percentage because they're a better team.
They're better.
I'm going to take Jordan Poole before I take Cam Thomas.
I think I'm with you there.
Comfortably as well.
Look, Cam Thomas is going to be the shiny way to get you points and a few other things, but both of these guys don't offer you much by way of defense. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. You're almost punting every single one. Cam Thomas actually finished the last 2 months of last season as the 85th player.
He did.
So you've got this runway for him in not just like basically this post All-Star thing where he's really improved his game. That being said, the amount of shit that was just purely hung on Jordan Poole for being so bad was bad. He finished at the 79th ranked player in that 2 months. So these guys are almost carbon copies of each other's. I do like the free throw percentage for Jordan Poole very much. I love the mid-range game. I love the threes that are there. And as you said, his assists did go up. They were at 5.8 last year. So I do like what Poole can give me. But if you're looking for these kind of things, like a few extra assists, high free throw percentage and points late in your drafts, there's no guy that's going to get you 20 plus apart from Jordan Poole, Cam Thomas.
Yep. Oh, and look, and no one's going to get you what super high free throw percentage as well than you will get from Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas loves a free throw, loves to get to the line. I just think have a bit more faith in Poole's passing to be able to get more assists than I can with Cam Thomas. I feel like, he's not like necessarily a catch and shoot kind of guy either, Cam Thomas. So he can't. I don't know how he's going to work off of Ben Simmons. I think it's more or less going to
work off that.
I'm pretty certain his numbers were like extremely down when Ben Simmons and Cam Thomas both played, but that was also with Mikal Bridges. So it'll be an interesting one to see. Well.
I do guess that is a good, nice little bomb though. Look, the percentage was, I think, around 850, but he was on 5.5 attempts a game from the line, Cam Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be just worth a little bit of a bump. But the one thing that I did like was that Jordan Poole started chipping in some steals.
He did.
And I was like, a steal a game. Mm-hmm. And I could do that because that's more than Cam Thomas. So I think he is going to get I think he's going to get it. Oh, yeah. Jordan Poole's.
Look, either way, both of their field goals are going to absolutely kill you. But I just think I rely a bit more on Poole's. I have a bit more faith in the steals, and I like Poole's assists over Thomas's assists.
But I guess at the end of the day, this means we are expecting a rise for Cam Thomas for Brooklyn 100%. But there's also another guy who finished well deep, and you're going to hear a lot of analysis. So let's just hit the nail on the head with this guy.
And it's crazy. Your opportunity.
Yeah, his name is Noah Clowney. You're going to hear a lot of analysts talk about him. It's because there is so much potential there. But like you said earlier on, Skiddy, we don't know who the starting five is. But there is a runway for Clowney to be a guy who he'd be a top 120 guy after being outside the top 300 last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we did see the blocks, and that's what I think everyone's most excited about with Noah Clowney. In the last week of the season when they unleashed him, he played 3 games and he averaged 2.7 blocks per game at 56% from the field as well. And his free throws aren't terrible, but
they're not.
The thing is, so he averaged 3.3 threes a game, which is what he would have to be able to do to be able to show that he can play next to Nick Claxton in particular, and then also with Ben Simmons. With Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton, they have to have shooters surrounding them. If Clowney cannot shoot, then he will not be able to play next to both Simmons and Claxton, and that is going to be detrimental to his fantasy upside. But yeah, if he does get the big minutes and the big role, we can look at, the blocks are the main saucy, eye-grabbing massive point that we want to see. And the fact that he's not going to kill you with free throw percentage is a big, big tick.
And the fact that he was even out there shooting threes and 600 from the floor in the last 2 weeks of the season, he was the 84th best player in that zone. Yep. So in the last 2 weeks, he's a guy you're like, oh, geez, that's all right. And it is. But again, as you said, there was no Ben Simmons around.
Yeah.
It was silly season.
Claxton was there.
Claxton wasn't playing. There was opportunity for the guy. But you could not put Clacko, Simmons, and Clowney on the floor if Clowney is not going to be a reliable three-point shooter.
100%.
And that's where we're looking at him there to be a reliable shooter from that. And he's not that yet. No. The upside is there. And if we see him in the preseason stretching the floor and also getting some backup center minutes, it's going to be a tasty take.
Yep.
Last couple rounds, comfortably.
I will have to assess a little bit further. I am worried about the floor time with Simmons and Claxton, but if he gets it, then it's there. And then G, we've got to look at the best of the rest, the other guys that are on this Brooklyn Nets team. I can definitely see Schroeder. He'll still get his minutes. He'll still get his go. I just don't know if he's going to be enough to be fantasy relevant, because obviously we saw him at Toronto last year. Needed a lot of usage and a lot of the ball in his hands to generate that. I think it was like 17 and 6 or something like that at one point he was at Toronto. Zaire Williams is going to have a bit coming over from Memphis. He needs a lot of game time. And Bojan Bogdanovic, obviously just a 3-point streamer. Would you agree? Anything other take with that, G?
Not really. I mean, look, Dennis Schroeder in the after coming across from Toronto into Brooklyn, he had a place. He was playing about 31 minutes a night in the last couple of weeks of the season. Still a top 130 player. I think he was about 120 at the time. He's going to get you points. He's going to get you assists. He's an elite free throw shooter. And he loves to get to the line. So if he starts to get minutes, for God knows, Cam Thomas goes down.
Yep.
This guy's going to be having all the minutes at point guard that he can.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to help swing your league in your way a hell of a lot. He was on 13.5 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. And it's the field goal percentage that really just jabs you in the teeth. He was sub 400 in the last couple of weeks. So he just didn't give a shit.
Hey,
he was
I'm saying this right now, though. If Ben Simmons goes down and he's not playing for the Nets, and you see that Ben Simmons is not playing for the Nets, Dennis Schroeder is the biggest pickup immediately.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%.
He will be. He's easily going to be the pickup, and it's not like we sit there and go, "Are we sure it's going to be him? Are we sure we're going to be able to get, usage and everything else?" Yes, we get Schroeder, and let's just roll with him.
And you do, and you see where it happens, and also an excellent pickup to package with someone else and get a better player.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because there's going to be someone who needs a point guard in your league. And you're like, by the way, I got Schroeder.
Yep. And he's going to get the minutes.
He's just filling in for Ben Simmons. I don't want him.
Yeah, and then you say, when Simmons going to get back?
Yeah, when Simmons going to get...
Yeah.
It's a great line to use in a trade. It's a great trade bait. You can package him really, really nicely and get yourself a top 75 player. You could 100% do that. And that's really great trade bait for a guy struggling in your league. There's no one really else from the Nets we want to target come draft day because these are going to be one of the waiver wire teams. Dorian Finney-Smith, back to back. You can pick him up. These are the guys that you're going to be looking at like that because they're only guys we're looking into draft day. You'd agree, mate?
Yeah.
The two Cams?
Thomas. Both Cams, Ben Simmons right at the end. I'm still very much keen on having a crack at. Obviously Claxton, and then we got guys that are just going to be able to rotate. Derek Whitehead can eventually get some minutes there. Also, this whole thing that we're talking. Yeah, Watford. The G League. Sorry, not the G League. The Summer League MVP. Is it Jalen Wilson? Yep, I think that's what his name is. Jalen Wilson, sorry. The only other thing that we have to look out for as well when we're talking about Clowney is how sure are we that Deron Sharp's not going to still start over him? I mean, have the minutes above him.
Look, Daron, this is the thing. I like Daron as well. I like Trendon Watford. I thought he had upside last year and didn't get unleashed. So for me, this is about a wait and see team, but they are definitely just diving in the fish tank and going for a swim this season.
The other thing is there's so many other ways that they can do this as well now because they also have signed Killian Hayes now in the offseason. He was a top 6 pick or 8 pick. How sure are we that they're not just going to try out Killian Hayes because he obviously failed at Detroit, but you never know that. And they've also got Shake Milton.
I think these guys are subs. You might have a little bit of a cheeky look at one of these guys in a deep league, like in ball leagues, in your 20 league deeps, 200 player rosters. That's where about it. But apart from that, I reckon that's about it for us on the Brooklyn Nets, buddy.
I agree, bro.
Mate, we'll be dropping this on a live premiere very soon. Make sure you like and subscribe to all the things. We have the links below also for a big draft board that we've spoken about. You can get onto that ASAP to get all the latest draft data and info from us. We've got a bunch of pods coming out this week. We'll see you soon, Skiddy.
Yes, sir. Don't be like Ben Simmons.